Happy second anniversary to the Orchid Hut. Today we'll be doing a quick repot with one of the channel's anchor plants, along with a few other surprises. Welcome back to the Orchid Hut. My name is Dana, and yes, today, September 8, 2023, is the second anniversary of the Orchid Hut channel. So first and foremost, thank you to all of you who have subscribed and participated in the channel. It has really grown beyond my wildest imagination when I started this channel 2 years ago. And so it's very fitting today, I think, to do a simple, hopefully, repot of this Phalaenopsis orchid, which was featured in not only the first welcome video that I made 2 years ago on September 8th, but it's also the very dark purple Phalaenopsis that is shown in the banner of my channel homepage. So it's been about 2.5, maybe 3 years now since this orchid has been repotted. It is a very reliable bloomer, although this Phalaenopsis probably has a good bit of Doritis in it because it is a more medium-sized Phalaenopsis, and that dark purple bloom that it has is also an indicator that it probably has a lot of that former Doritis genus ancestry in it. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. This should be relatively simple. I have my Repot Me Phalaenopsis mix here. This is, I believe, the Monterey Dark blend. And this orchid had a number 1 on the side of the pot. It was also one of the orchids in 2022 that I did the Follow Me Phalaenopsis series with. So we won't be needing that any longer because that was a year ago. And this plant was watered yesterday, so the roots are still going to be very green. And I'm not expecting any kind of drama here. Should be relatively straightforward. There are some roots poking through the bottom hole of the pot. That has cut loose now, and we'll kind of see what's going on here. So the root system looks really good. I mean, for having been in this pot for probably what's going on 3 years now, the root system looks really, really good. Okay, so I think the first thing here will be to just kind of give it a little bit of a quick trim. You can see, and I want to be very careful not to break this, but there is a new root tip right here just beginning to grow, and I will be trying to encourage that to go down inside the new pot. Okay, so we're going to give this just a quick trim, and then I will have to take it over to the sink to give it a rinse. And I will probably I don't always do this with an orchid that I've had in my collection for such a long time, but I probably will go ahead and spray this root system with hydrogen peroxide just for good measure. Not because I'm really seeing anything that needs it, but it never hurts when you're repotting something that has not been repotted in a number of years to just go ahead and do that. A couple of other things while I'm doing this work here that I wanted to share with you. There is a local chapter of the American Orchid Society having a show in mid-September, and it's the Central Louisiana Local Orchid Society. And the show is going to be in Alexandria, or near Alexandria, Louisiana. I believe the name of the actual small little town is Pineville. And the judging is on a Friday. And then the exhibits, I think, stay up throughout Saturday. And I do believe they have some orchids for sale. Well, in any event, we are planning to take a little overnight trip and include that orchid show in our adventures, along with some probably very high calorie but yummy Cajun seafood, which I'm really looking forward to. So if you happen to be going to that show mid-September in Louisiana, and if you have any kind of inkling of what I look like, if you see me there, please come up to me and say hello if you're familiar with my channel. And yeah, so maybe I'll have a chance to meet some of you if you'll be at that show. Okay, now let's have a look at this root right here, because this is an interesting example of something that you may run across in your own repotting, and you think to yourself, should I cut that off? Should I just let that be? Well, clearly this part of the root is still alive, and then there's this part that has died, but then there's still a live root on the very end. So what's keeping this alive is the central cord that runs within the root itself. And so, yeah, the whole thing is still alive. Now, if you want to trim it, probably no harm done, because in this case there's enough of another root system. But if you want to leave it, that's also fine too. So I think I will be leaving it. Some of these other roots are very, very dark at the top of the plant here, but they are not soft or mushy. They are just older roots that have turned a bit woody. So I'll be leaving those as well, because the rest of the root, you know, is still living. So it's perfectly fine. All right, just a little bit more of a trim here. Now, you may be thinking, how in the world am I supposed to recognize Dana at this orchid show? Well, it'll be a little hard, but I will tell you, I'll give you a few clues. One is that 2 days prior, I will be having a little bit of dermatology surgery on my forehead, so I will be the person with the bandage on my forehead. That's one way. And then I will be traveling with Mr. Orchid Hut, so I will be with a man with a beard. That might be another clue. All right, so here we go. I think I will take this over to the sink, and when I get back from that, I'm going to be trying, I think, to remove a little bit more of this bract around the top of this root system here, and we will go ahead and give this a repot. Okay, be back from the sink in just a second. Okay, so back from the sink here. This orchid has had a rinse. I did spray the root system and the bottom of the plant with 3% hydrogen peroxide, just for good measure. The pot that it came out of is still a good size for this orchid, but this one does need to be cleaned before it's reused. There was a little bit of algae in the pot. I have another pot just like it over here that has already been cleaned, so I'll be using that one. There's not much space in the bottom of the pot for a lot of media before putting the orchid in, because it is a tight fit. So I'm just going to put a tiny little bit in the bottom, and then we will try to fit the orchid in. I'm also going to be trying to work in some of those air roots. Okay, so while I was off camera, I did go and look up the dates for the Central Louisiana Orchid Show. It is Friday and Saturday, September 22nd and 23rd. I don't know, I think it might not start until the afternoon of the Friday, and that's when the judging is, and then I'm not exactly sure when they will be selling plants, but I have read that they will be selling plants that may only be on the Saturday. All right, so I will be there Friday afternoon and probably Saturday morning, and I will take some photos and or do some filming if that's allowed. It generally is. It's generally not a problem. And of course, if I purchase anything, I will definitely be sure to share that with you when I get back. Okay, so this is going to be just fine. We're going to work around some of the air roots now to the top of the pot. And hopefully those will branch at some point in the future. I have had pretty good luck recently with getting air roots put down inside the pot to branch. So we'll hope for the best here. The leca is rolling all over the place. I always say I have one of the cleanest kitchen floors in the neighborhood because every time I do this I have to mop. Okay. One other thing that is coming up, and I thought it was going to be coming up sooner, but it turns out that it's coming up later. I have been working on trying to get a members area for the channel, get that set up and going in a reasonable kind of way with some topics that are more advanced and may only be of interest to, growers who are really into the nitty-gritty of the science of growing orchids. But YouTube is not exactly friendly when it comes to setting up new things, and I want to make sure that I get it right the first time I set it up so that I don't have to disappoint people and redo it. So that is taking a little bit of extra time to get set up, but hopefully that will be coming up before the end of the year, fingers crossed. And it's probably going to be an area that covers, things more like parts per million in your fertilizer water and using a TDS meter and some of the reverse osmosis systems that people have for making their orchid water, and different things about nutrients for plants, and maybe some other creative kinds of projects related to orchids. But it's not going to be taking anything at all away from the content of the channel as you know it. It's simply going to be more and different. Okay, so that is looking pretty good. Now this orchid, following with its Doraitis genus ancestry, is typically a late winter, early spring spiker, which means that the bloom lasts through the summer and into the fall. And it had that growth habit for years and years until this past year when it spiked much earlier, and then I cut away the bloom spike on this orchid about at the same time as all of my other orchids. So just when you think you have one figured out, it does something a little bit different. But I am hoping for a spike sometime soon on this one so that it can be blooming in 2024. Okay, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for celebrating my 2nd year channel anniversary. And if you enjoyed this video or learned something new, please give it a thumbs up. The subscribe button will be coming up in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Don't forget the notifications bell. It will let you know when I've posted something new. And thank you all so much for watching. Talk to you next time.